Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Have you ever thought about whether the Dursleys were truly evil, or if the movies simply made them look that way? What if the truth about them was much more complicated and they weren't the heartless monsters we've been led to believe? In today's video, you will find out what the films didn't show us about the Dursleys and why their story might deserve a second look. Throughout the Harry Potter series, few characters were as despised as the Dursleys. The ordinary Muggle family that raised Harry was portrayed as cruel, petty, and even abusive. Thanks to the movies, they stood alongside villains like Dolores Umbridge and Draco Malfoy, despite committing far fewer actual crimes. I won't say they were perfect, but maybe they weren't as bad as we thought. It's time to set the record straight and uncover their real story, the one that was mostly left out of the films. So grab your favourite Muggle tea and let's dive in. The Dursleys before Harry Potter. Petunia Dursley was the older sister of Lily Potter, Harry's mother. As children, they were close, but everything changed when Lily was revealed to be a witch and accepted into Hogwarts. Petunia dreamed of joining her sister in the magical world, even writing to Dumbledore begging for a chance to study magic. But she was a Muggle, and her wish was impossible. Over time, jealousy turned into resentment. She distanced herself from magic, left her childhood home, and married a man who shared her views. Vernon Dursley was an average Muggle, practical, ambitious, and deeply concerned with order and normalcy. He didn't just dislike magic, he feared and distrusted it. But he and Petunia still had to maintain some contact with Harry's parents. After all, they were family. At one fateful dinner, James Potter mocked Vernon for his mundane lifestyle, embarrassing him deeply. From that moment on, Vernon held a grudge, and unfortunately, he directed much of that resentment at Harry, who reminded him too much of his father. Their son, Dudley Dursley, grew up spoiled and entitled. Given everything he wanted and never disciplined, he became a bully. But as we'll see later, even Dudley wasn't beyond redemption. Why the Dursleys disliked Harry? Their mistreatment of Harry wasn't random. It had reasons, even if they weren't good ones. Petunia resented Harry because he represented everything she had once wished for, but could never have. He was a wizard, just like her sister. He was kind, intelligent, and strong, qualities that made her own son look worse in comparison. And perhaps, deep down, she feared that his presence would bring danger to their home. Vernon disliked Harry because he was the spitting image of James Potter, the man who had humiliated him years ago. That bitterness never faded, and as for Dudley, he bullied Harry simply because he had never been taught otherwise. He was a child raised without boundaries, and hurting others made him feel powerful. Were the Dursleys truly evil? Despite everything, I wouldn't say they were outright villains. Here's why. The Dursleys tried to keep Harry away from the dangers of the magical world. When they desperately blocked his Hogwarts letters, maybe they weren't just being cruel. Maybe they genuinely thought they were protecting him from a world filled with dark wizards, Voldemort, and deadly spells. Over time, they showed moments of remorse. Petunia stopped Vernon from throwing Harry out after the Dementor attack, and in their final goodbye she hesitated, as if she wanted to say something meaningful but couldn't find the words. Even Dudley changed. He thanked Harry for saving him from the Dementors and later, as an adult, kept in touch with him and Ginny. As we continue to uncover the truth about the Dursleys, let's take a deeper look at how their actions, while often cruel, weren't necessarily born from pure malice. Were they really the heartless monsters the films portrayed, or were they simply victims of their own fears and prejudices? The biggest argument against them is, of course, their treatment of Harry. They made him live in a cupboard, gave him Dudley's old clothes, and never treated him as a real member of the family. But let's step back and ask a difficult question. Did they really have a choice? Imagine you're Petunia. You grew up in the shadow of a gifted younger sister. You begged to be part of her world but were rejected. Then she died, leaving you with her magical child, the constant reminder of everything you weren't allowed to have. And on top of that, Dumbledore left a letter saying you had to take him in whether you wanted to or not. There was no discussion, no way out. You were forced into this responsibility, knowing full well that taking in Harry meant dragging your family into the same danger that killed his parents. From Petunia's perspective, she wasn't just protecting Dudley from a boy she resented. She was trying to keep her home safe from the wizarding world, a world that had already taken so much from her. But instead of acknowledging her fear, she covered it with cruelty. Vernon, too, wasn't acting entirely out of hatred. He was a man who built his life around normalcy. Magic was unpredictable, dangerous, and completely beyond his control. And more than anything, Vernon hated feeling powerless. The less control he had over Harry, the more aggressive he became. It's easy to call him a bully, but let's not forget. When the letters started flooding their home, when Hagrid broke down their door, when Harry suddenly started talking to snakes and vanishing glass, Vernon wasn't just being stubborn, he was terrified. He wasn't equipped to handle this. He did the only thing he knew how. He doubled down on what he believed to be true. Magic was unnatural, it was dangerous, and the only way to keep it out of his house was to crush it out of Harry. Of course, none of this excuses their actions, but it does explain them. And perhaps that's why, as time went on, their attitude toward Harry changed, subtly but noticeably. Take Dudley, the spoiled, cruel boy who loved nothing more than to torment Harry, the boy who threw tantrums over presents and thought bullying was just a game. For years it seemed like nothing would change him. But then the Dementors attacked. For the first time in his life, Dudley felt real fear. And for the first time, he saw his cousin not as an annoying freak, but as someone who was actually protecting him. After that moment, something shifted. Dudley stopped calling Harry names. He no longer laughed when his parents put him down. And when the Dursleys left for good, he was the only one who had the courage to say what his parents couldn't. He told Harry he didn't think he was a waste of space. That moment alone shows that, deep down, there was hope for the Dursleys. And then there's Petunia's final scene. It's a small, almost forgettable moment in the books. She pauses before walking out the door, as if she wants to say something but doesn't. In that hesitation, there's so much left unsaid. Maybe she wanted to tell Harry that she never truly hated him. Maybe she wanted to tell him how much she missed her sister. Or maybe, just maybe, she wanted to warn him about Voldemort, about the dangers ahead, about the horrors she had witnessed from the sidelines. We'll never know what she meant to say, but the fact that she hesitated at all speaks volumes. Vernon, on the other hand, never changed. He remained stubborn, bitter, and unwilling to see Harry as anything more than a burden. But Petunia and Dudley, there was something human in them, something that suggested that, given time, they might have found a way to make peace with their past. Perhaps that's why, in the years after the war, Dudley reached out. The details are vague, but J.K. Rowling confirmed that he and Harry exchanged Christmas cards. It's not much, but considering where they started, it means everything. So, were the Dursleys evil? No, they were flawed. They were frightened. They were products of their own insecurities and past wounds. And maybe that's the saddest thing about them. They could have been better. They could have done right by Harry. But they let their fear dictate their actions, and in the end, that fear cost them a relationship they never even realized they needed. And that perhaps is the real tragedy of the Dursleys, not that they were villains, but that they were too afraid to be anything else.